Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 114. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad to be back with you guys for this Friday show. Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. What do we got? About 16 weeks now before we start.
So the countdown already begun.
Yeah. I think a little more than 16 weeks to go until the Steelers' first game. And I guess technically yesterday would be 16 weeks exactly until the start of the 2021 regular season. First game's Thursday night, right? So exactly 16 weeks. So get your R&R in now. Now that we're into kind of post rookie mini camp and obviously the OTAs are going on. Have begun that phase of the off season right now. But for the most part, we're about to go into that really slow part of the off season here.
Yep, it's the off-season whenever I start busting out new series to try to get us through these next couple of weeks. I got my undrafted, Steelers all-undrafted team, a new series about underrated plays of memorable moments. Max Stark's great block on Willie Parker's 75-yard Super Bowl run. So we are about to hit the dead of the off-season here, Dave.
Absolutely.
But we do have some news to bring along to you guys since our last show on Tuesday. The biggest news of which is the official announcement initially teased by Troy Polamalu on Twitter and then announced the following days that Dick LeBeau will be Troy's presenter for the Hall of Fame ceremony this August. So I know that's something that you had kind of thought about or, would talk about in the past, Dave. So good call by you. But going to be really cool to see Dick LeBeau, a Hall of Famer himself, present Troy in the Canton.
Yeah, I don't think you had to be a rocket surgeon or a heart scientist to maybe connect the dots on that possibly happening there, but it was something that that first hit my mind. Not too long after Troy. It was announced that Troy was going to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Boy, that seems like such a long time ago now at this point here. But it makes a lot of sense. Look, Dick LeBeau was the wasn't actually the Steelers defensive coordinator at the time that Troy was drafted, but the year that followed is when Dick LeBeau came back to Pittsburgh and all, and from that point forward was the Steelers defensive coordinator, all the way up until his time and Troy's time ended in Pittsburgh there, and you try to remember back to Troy's rookie season and. He's a bust, and that kind of thing. And boy, how quickly he turned around. Almost immediately. Really, I guess about a third of a way through his second season, Dick LeBeau's first season in Pittsburgh there, and a bust. All right, he's going to have a bust in Canton when it comes to that, and to have really his mentor. I think everybody I'm sure already knows what Dick LeBeau meant to not only Troy Polamalu, but really a lot of the veteran defensive Steelers players at that time and during that era, if you will, Ike Taylors and Ryan Clarks and Brett Kiesel and Casey Hampton and Aaron Smith and James Fair. Boy, you just go down the list, man. It's not hard to rattle off those names at this point here. And look, had Troy probably gotten his way, with the Steelers and all, he very well could have ended his career in Tennessee, that season, instead of retiring there, because Dick LeBeau landed on his feet in Tennessee after. Essentially, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Being fired, not having your contract renewed, same thing, I guess. But there was a lot of talk at the time that Troy wanted to go that way, and the Steelers really wouldn't, help facilitate that, and kind of forced retirement upon him, if you will. But anyway, it makes a lot of sense that that Troy Polamalu would choose Dick LeBeau to be his presenter. And now I think the only question is will Troy's speech be longer than that of Dick LeBeau's presentation speech, if you will, or however that's going to go down there, because Troy, not a man of many words there. So, but I don't think I don't think you could handpick a better presenter than Dick LeBeau when it comes to Troy Polamalu.
No, I agree. I actually think Troy's going to have a decently long speech. Obviously, I know he's been a pretty quiet guy during his playing career, but I think he'll want to take, really kind of bask in this moment in the sense of thanking all the people that have helped him along the way. So I think he'll have a speech that's longer than, say, Jack Butler's, the Steelers corner, who had like a 3-minute and 40-second speech several years ago. But yeah, just to LeBeau himself, I mean, I just can't think of two better people to work together than Troy Polamalu and Dick LeBeau. I mean, those are just the perfect guys in terms of LeBeau's creativity, his aggressiveness, willingness to use Troy, move him all around the field, trusting Troy, and then Troy himself just being that perfect fit in a Dick LeBeau defense. When I think about Dick LeBeau, I think about just an agent of chaos, and that's what Troy was individually as a player, just this agent of chaos where you had to know where he was at, but yet you never knew where he was going to be, and that's what just made him so special. And so, I didn't know who Troy was going to choose. It could have been anyone, because he just, is a kind of a private guy, and he could have chosen a Buddhist monk, and I've been like, yeah, that makes sense. So it's really, really cool that Troy has chosen Dick LeBeau. And so now, of the ones we know that Art Rooney II is going to present Bill Cowher. We know that Hines Ward's going to present Alan Faneca, and Dick LeBeau is not going to present Troy Polamalu. So you talk about just Steelers Nation being represented at Canton. I mean, you might as well have this ceremony in Pittsburgh, because it really feels like it's going to be just Steelers all the way.
Yeah, and it kind of reminiscent of a few years ago, right? When it was, didn't Butler and Bettis go in at the same time?
I'd have to check. I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, it seems like there's been a couple of instances over the last, I guess, decade, right, where it seemed like it's like a Steelers Lollapalooza, if you will, at Canton with more than one former player being inducted in there. I mean, just the path going back in the last 10 years. You talk about Kevin Green. You talk about Bettis. You talk about how long goes Dermontti Dawson now? Jack Butler and
LeBeau himself in
LeBeau, right? LeBeau, and I guess that falls within. Man, has it been 10 years since that happened?
I think so. I'll double check, but yeah, it's been a while, Dave.
Man, that almost seems like yesterday, doesn't it? I mean, at least to me, it does.
2010.
Wow. And anyway, hey, here's the thing, though. You look at what a big celebration that's going to be, obviously in Canton later this summer. Mm-hmm. When's going to be the next one? Maybe like that, where multiple Steelers go in at one time. I mean,
let me enjoy the moment.
I know.
Me down over here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You better, anybody that has a chance to get out there and take all that in. You might want to do that, because it very well could be a while since until the next time that we see not only one but multiple going in at the maybe in the same class.
Right, and of course, again, Donnie Shell, Bill Nunn, posthumously is also going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. So that's going to be just an awesome weekend through and through. We don't yet know who's inducting. Someone said Shell's daughter, or maybe Bill Nunn's daughter, or someone is going to induct them. I don't know if that's been made official. Have you heard anything on those two?
I thought that was known. Didn't we know that who it was going to be?
Maybe I just forgot about it. I can't quite remember, but
it's his daughter, I think, right?
For Shell or for Nunn?
For Shell.
Shell. Is it? Okay.
I thought that was who it is. Donnie Shell's daughter, perfect pick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
April Shell.
Okay, so my mistake. I thought that it hadn't been announced yet. But okay, so we know that, and we don't know for Bill Nunn. Maybe probably a family member, but I don't think that's quite known.
Right.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so that's going to be, I believe, August 7th and August 8th is going to be the ceremonies. So they're going to break it up to 2020 and 2021 class. And so that's going to be just a fantastic weekend. Of course, the Steelers playing in the Hall of Fame game against Dallas.
Yep, absolutely. Heck of a weekend to start looking forward to. And I guess when's the date of the Hall of Fame game?
The 5th, I believe.
August. Okay.
August 5th.
All right. So, we're that'll be here before we know it.
Yep, less than 16 weeks, as you counted down earlier. Some other Steelers news here, Dave. The Steelers announced the signing of 2 more draft picks, so now all of their Day 3 draft picks have been signed. Those 2 most recent ones were 4th-round picks, Dan Moore Jr. and linebacker Buddy Johnson, pair of Texas A&M Aggies. So those 2 signed, sealed, delivered.
And then there were 3. And those 3, obviously, right now are Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, and Kendrick Green are the draft picks of the Steelers, still unsigned. Did we talk about this the other day a little bit? About maybe it wasn't with you. Maybe I did this on a radio interview there. But I expect Freiermuth and Kendrick Green to get done fairly quick. Because there's really not a lot, I don't think, to negotiate there. We'll see about Najee Harris. The only thing about Najee Harris is he's kind of right there on that line, of fully guaranteed deals. And, usually you talk a lot about offsets and stuff like that. I think the biggest things when it comes to Najee Harris, not so much the offset language when it comes to that. It's how much of this thing is fully guaranteed. And when Najee Harris being a running back and being the first running back and just everything in general there, if I'm his agent, I'm pushing hard for to be above that line of having a fully guaranteed contract. And quite honestly, I'll be surprised if when this thing gets done, if Najee Harris, if the whole deal isn't fully guaranteed. I mean, I guess you'd kind of consider it a big win for the Steelers if it isn't fully guaranteed, but he is right there kind of on that line, 23, 24, 25, selection. I have to go back and look at last year and see where the cutoff line is. Obviously, the agents keep trying to push that line to all first rounders fully guaranteed contracts, whereas teams at the bottom of whatever first round that is are trying to push back and say, oh, let's make the line, let's cut it off there. Even if it isn't all 4 years fully guaranteed, it'll be at least 3 and a good probably portion of that 4th year. So all that said, he should be signed, sealed, and delivered, before the start of training camp.
Right, and that's all that really matters. The Steeler fans will be there for hopefully when they're at Latrobe, and so that'll get done sooner or later, even if it does take a little bit longer than the others for the reasons that you mentioned. Some other news here. I guess I really wouldn't call this Steelers news, but at least a bit of a point of Steelers discussion. And you had a post on it yesterday, Dave, explaining the situation. Washington football team released offensive tackle Morgan Moses yesterday after the drafting of Samuel Cosmi and signing Charles Leno, who himself was released by the Bears, made Moses expendable. I know some Steeler fans have asked, could he be an option for Pittsburgh? What's your take on the situation, Dave?
I tell you, first and foremost, I found it a bit intriguing. Why are you swapping a guy like Moses for Leno just to save? I don't know. I haven't seen the exact details on Leno. I thought I saw something on Leno last week where it was up to $5 million, which obviously means that it's not guaranteed $5 million. Have you seen anything other than that? I think that's where we left off. But let's just assume it is Leno on a guaranteed, basically $5 million for one season, and Moses was scheduled to earn a base salary of $7.5 million in 2021 prior to his contract being terminated. Do you see a difference of $2.5 million there?
Not really, but I guess in terms
players?
Of play, if they evaluated obviously that they believe Leno's going to be their starter and they draft Cosmi, then that leaves Moses as odd man out, and he's not going to be a backup tackle for $7.5 million.
Right, but I mean, they had Moses under contract before going after Leno.
Right, wasn't that under the old regime though? I don't think they signed. I don't know if Rivera and Cruz signed him.
I guess so. I guess you could look at it that way. I mean, this is a guy that when I think of Morgan Moses, I think of a kind of an Iron Man type guy, right? I mean, go ahead.
He's an Iron Man, but every time I've watched him play, he's on the ground hurt. Like he's played through like 100 ankle injuries. It feels like in his career, so he hasn't missed much time. But it just feels like he goes down, once a game.
Okay, fair enough. And maybe that is a concern. Now, the other concern is this. This guy's been predominantly a right tackle throughout his NFL career. Now, he did, looking back, he did start. And I think predominantly played left tackle during his final season at Virginia, which obviously was many, many moons ago. But this is a predominantly a right tackle guy. And when you look at the Steelers, if you're going to do anything, you would think potentially you would maybe do something with a guy that would be predominantly left tackle capable. Not saying that Moses couldn't make the move over there. Anyway, I think the thing that stuck out to me first was, man, $2.5 million to go from a known commodity to that's been in your building with your franchise for a long time to a guy that was also kind of a cap casualty, if you will, in Charles Leno as well too. So that's the thing that caught my first and foremost. Secondly, all right, what is Moses worth right now? I think you can start back and say, well, Leno got $5 million, and obviously Washington tried to trade Moses in that $7.5 million that he was due in 2021. They obviously could, no team thought he was worth that. So you would potentially think that Moses' value would be less than $7.5 million per season, correct?
Yeah, you would imagine it's right around there, but I just look at his value and price tag is in more than the Steelers probably can afford unless they want to structure this thing, with avoidable years type situation.
All right, and maybe Baltimore should have waited a little bit longer, right?
Right.
Because they essentially look. It was a 2-year, $14 million deal for Alejandro Villanueva, but let's face it, that's a 1-year, $8 million deal for Alejandro Villanueva. So they are paying Alejandro Villanueva $8 million to play in 2021, and then really we'll see what happens with 2022. Personally, I will be a bit shocked if Villanueva is on the Ravens roster exactly 1 year from now. So let's look at it at 1 year, $8 million right now. Let's look at Leno at 1 year, $5 million right now.
Eric Fisher just got 1 year, it's like 9.5. I forget what the number was on Eric Fisher with the Colts.
I don't remember seeing.
It was higher than what I thought it was going to be for a guy coming off a torn Achilles.
Yeah, that's another thing with him is he is coming off the torn Achilles. Let me see if I can pull that up here real quick.
I just saw the other day the looks like 9.4, I believe, avoidable year deal.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, 1 year 9.4 with avoidable years attached. So that's again more than what I thought it was going to be. But yeah, Moses, still should command. You would think at least Leno's number of about $5 million.
Right. Okay. So let's say it is $5 million. All right, and that's how much, at the very least, he has to have put in his pocket to play for a team in 2021. Now, technically, the Steelers, I guess, could do something like a 2-year deal with him, give him the minimum base salary of 1.075, and then make up the rest of the $5 million in a 0.75 signing bonus, and voila, you gave him $5 million if I am Moses. However, and you insist on doing a deal that way, I'm going to say, look, let's make that, I'll help you out here. You got to void that 2000 and voids all the rage with the young kids nowadays, Alex. So you got to void that 2022 year for me. Yeah, you could technically get Moses' 2021 cap number around $3 million or so, just only doing one voidable year. You could get it even below $2 million if you did 4 voidable years. There, obviously, in doing so, you're going to set yourself up for a little bit more potential dead money in 2022. So let's just look at it, them being smart and doing something, let's say, on a 2-year deal, paying Moses $5 million in 2021. Once again, his cap hit would be a little more than, I think, $3 million is what I wrote there. That's the minimum it could be on such a deal that way. Even that's a little bit too rich for the Steelers' blood. So especially when you look at projected salary cap costs moving forward into the offseason, something we've talked about numerous times. Yes, right now at this moment they have around $9 million in actual cap space, but all that's already gone, man. Sure, we expect some restructures of guys like Tuitt and Boswell potentially later on as the offseason goes on. We'll see what happens with T.J. Watt, how much actually you can save when it comes to an extension with him. But you have to look at this thing kind of in real time and look at it also with what your projected future predictive costs are in that. The only way I see something like this happening, look, you can make it, every time someone tweets at us or asks us, what are the chances or is there a chance that Steelers can sign X player? The answer is always yes, there's a chance, right? Theoretically. I mean, a team theoretically can almost make any player work. It's just how bad do you want to make that player work with the cap massaging and all. And what kind of hell or high water do you want to go through to sign that player? So asking a question like, can the Steelers sign a guy? Well, the obvious answer is where there's a will, there's a way, right? It just now, if you want to drill it down and say, what are they willing to do to get that deal done? That's a whole different ball of wax there. Personally, I think if they were to go about the business of signing a guy like Moses, it would have to be exactly what I laid out there. A 2-year deal that would, at a minimum, that would pay Moses probably around $5 million total in 2021. It'd have to be a cap charge of right around $3 million or less. And then on top of it, I think you'd have to turn around and make a little room via a termination. And quite honestly, when you look at the roster and you look at the position that you're bringing in there, everything else that goes along, I think Chukwuma Okorafor would be the guy that you would have to cut, him and his $2 million salary that he's due, because why are you going to pay, if you're going to bring in a guy like Moses A., why are you going to pay somebody $2 million like Okorafor, to basically be your swing guy when you have a guy like Joe Haig that you signed, that you think could be that guy. Anyway, I think part of the minutia to get that done would be Okorafor out the door. That's almost rhymes.
I'm sure Okorafor isn't amused by that rhyme. I don't see it happening. I mean, it's obvious to say that any one free agent probably isn't going to come to Pittsburgh, but for all the minutia and moves that you're laying out here for a team that I think wants to go in the season with Okorafor at left tackle, get a real good evaluation of him, and then, of course, just sign Banner to that 2-year deal, so he's, of course, going to start more likely at right tackle. Moses being a right tackle predominantly in his NFL career. I know he's played probably a little bit of left tackle before at the NFL level and did so in college, as you mentioned, but just don't see this one happening.
People we've kind of loosened up the reins on this over the years, you and I, right? I mean, pretty much it was we never even entertained anything because pretty sure that stuff like this was not going to happen. So what do we start doing? People start pushing back and say, you guys never entertain. Why don't you guys talk about this? And then we get pushback that weird pushback on top of us for us even entertaining the plausibility of the factor. Okay. In fact, there was a comment in the post last night. Unfortunately for the player, this is from John Walker, Captain America, in the Steelers Depot comment. Unfortunately for the players, Dave, not every player that wants what they're worth is going to get that this year. Eventually, these guys will have to take massive pay cut if they want to play in 2021. If not Moses, it'll be another cap casualty a month from now. I'm betting right now the Steelers pull a free agent before the start of the season and then quote-unquote think they can't afford. Watch. Well, didn't I just technically give give lay out something where the plausibility could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think you're not shutting the door financially and saying that it's impossible to happen.
Right, and didn't I just write an article the other day that says I expect the Steelers to sign at least two more free agents? Not currently under contract. So what do the people want, Alex? We entertain the plausibility of it, then they say, oh, but you're not really entertaining it.
Yeah, well, you're not going to please everybody. If one guy doesn't like the angle, I mean, what are you going to do about that?
We try to give we've tried to go a step further now in these discussions. Is just saying that's not going to happen. To kind of educate and say, okay, here is the most plausible way if it were to happen, and to give people full disclosure of what we think is out there, what's going on with the team, the player, and all like that, and then looking at it that way and saying, do we think it's going to happen? And I think both of us agree that we would be quite surprised if if he's willing to accept less than $5 million in 2021, well, the plausibility factor goes up a little bit more, right? But even so, you're talking about a right tackle, 30-year-old player. I understand he's from Virginia and all like that, but even so, it would be quite surprising unless it really, really became a bargain. And not only with Moses, I mean, I'm talking the rest of the offseason here when we're talking about players that will you be, I mean, how shocked will you be if this team does not add at least two more players that wind up on the 53-man roster, Alex?
I don't know my level of shockness, but I think it is probably going to happen because their depth is weak at so many areas. Whether you want to talk about potentially slot corner, I know they signed Millette, but you talk about edge, talk about tight end, another position that may pop up. So I think when your depth isn't that strong, you're more likely to bring in, maybe making a trade or another signing or picking up a guy cut down. So yeah, I think one way or another they'll find two more guys on the roster.
All right, we just don't think it's going to be a guy that's going to make $5 million in 2021.
Right, and oftentimes it's not. It's Zach Banner who comes in, mid-camp. It's same with Ray McLeod. So it's usually not the flashy free agent signing. It's some lower-level cheap guy that comes in partially because he's cheap and partially because he has a good camp or whatever.
Right, and going back, I think you and I kind of recapped kind of the list going back to 2012 the other day, and I think we mentioned Cameron Kelly. He was added before that year's draft.
Yeah, I knew he was like an off-season thing, right? He was
right.
A mid-camp. Yeah. He was in the XFL or whatever league he was playing.
Right. I thought that was after the draft, but it turned out it was like April 9th or something. It was in April, but it was before the draft and not technically after the draft. So that year, I believe, technically, it was only Johnny Holton that was added after the draft. After rookie minicamp that wound up making the 53-man roster. Now they did have, I think that was the year also, didn't Eli Rogers got signed right after the start of training camp? But the fact with him is he started, I think, the season on PUP, if memory serves me on that. Wasn't actually on the active 53-man roster there. But outside of that 1 year. You go back to, you count all the names up going back to 2012, the average per year after rookie minicamp takes place is 3 adds. It's like 3.1 in total. So I don't think it's out of the question to expect that, we'll see two guys not currently under contract added to this team's roster that wind up making the 53-man roster.
Right, we've already seen one with Arthur Millette. I think Millette's got a good chance to make it. Just being a veteran guy with versatility is a good way to stick on this roster.
Right, and even that was before the rookie minicamp. I'm talking, and I'm talking after. I still think there's a good chance that we see 2 more even after the fact there.
Sure, yeah, we shall see. But usually something happens in the next couple of months, so we'll see. I just don't think it'll be Morgan Moses.
Right. But we did entertain it. People can't say, well, you shut it down, so there you go.
I know you just kind of touched on it in discussing Morgan Moses, but you had a cap update yesterday. So anytime you post one of those articles, I like to allow you to have some space to talk about the Steelers' most recent salary cap update.
Yeah, look, I mean, this thing is moving on just as expected, right? Because you have, when you're talking about draft picks and slotted numbers and all like that, all that's kind of predictive as well, too. So I think really when you look right now, here's the thing. We're still waiting to learn what the signing bonuses are on the two remaining undrafted guys, but I can't imagine either one of those guys, Bussey or who was the other one? Jamar
Watson.
Watson, the outside linebacker. Either one of those guys impacting the 2021 cap by more than $3,000 each, so it's kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Now, obviously, you still have the signings of Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, and Kendrick Green going, but in all reality, in real time, as we sit here right now, waiting for a couple of numbers, we're looking at 85 players known. I believe under contract. Obviously, you had, like I said, the two undrafted guys have signed. We're just waiting to get the figures on them, and then the 3 draft picks as well, too. As well, you're looking at 9.153 in kind of real time, if you will, or at least are known real time right now under the cap. You start looking at the predictive cost. Moving ahead, talking about things like signing the rest of these draft picks, practice squad, in-season replacement fund. This team's technically $3.2 million over the cap, if you really want to look at it that way. And then, on top of it, if you go ahead and say, look, we can count on Stephon Tuitt, Chris Boswell to have restructures totaling almost $5 million. I mean, it looks right now that this team has right around a little shy of $1.8 million in what I'd like to say effective usable salary cap space. So if you think that you can get Morgan Moses on a $5 million for 2021 on a 4-year voidable deal, there's your $1.8 million. Now, obviously, we have to see if you're going to cut somebody other than that. But the grand scheme of thing here, the overall message here is there is just not a lot of cap space whatsoever to work with.
Yeah, and that's the message that you've been preaching for a couple months now, that on the surface you may look at it and say, about $9-10 million in cap space, that looks like a lot of room, but that money is all earmarked for, and that's also taking still into account the money that'll be used whenever they restructure Stephon Tuitt and Chris Boswell. So that alone will not give you really additional money. That money is already kind of accounted for at this point. So not a lot of room for the Steelers.
Right. And my predictive cost on top of it, look, I went bare bones on the practice squad minimum amount. I also, look, $6 million in season replacement fund and $1 million in standard elevation costs. That's $7 million. I don't know how much you want to try to think that the Steelers will come in less than that. A good source told me that my numbers with, a good source within the Steelers organization told me that my, $7 million roughly to start the season with for in-season moves is probably going to be right on the money there. So if you think I overshot, how much do you think I overshot by? $1.5 million? I mean, if so, that's still not a lot of money. That puts you around, I don't know, $3.2, $3.3 million in effective usable salary cap space if you are 100% convinced that I overshot of what the Steelers will carry into the regular season.
Yeah, so no matter how you slice it, and I don't think you overshot, but no matter how you want to slice it, not a lot of room there. So that's a good update. And really, those are – I don't imagine there'll be too many more camp updates until we get, I guess, the two at Boswell restructures, and then, of course, whatever the TJ Watt extension, assuming that happens, brings in terms of, maybe a little bit of cap relief for this year, but probably not much.
Yeah, I think technically what we're going to be doing, Alex, is after Harris And I mean, look, you could almost already kind of pencil in what those cap costs are going to be, really, if you wanted to. And really, they already are factored in. I guess if you look at my chart there, because it's the projected remaining rookie pool of 3 draft picks and the offset that goes along with it. So you're looking at roughly right around $2 million more in cap space being used to sign the other 3 draft picks there as the roster sits right now. So really, after, once we know the firm numbers on the rest of these 5 guys, it at that point it's really time to kind of turn the page, and then that's when in the next couple of weeks I'll be giving everybody a fuller look at what the 2022 cap situation looks like as a whole. And there's a lot of people trying to get out in front of this thing and look at it, but I think a lot of people are also forgetting that hey, you still got a restructure for Tuitt and Boswell likely on the way. That's going to lump even more money onto 2022. What is the second year cap hit on a TJ Watt deal going to look like? $20-25 million. Along those lines. There, you've got obviously some more dead money on the way, like it or not. With the cut, with the final cut downs, we don't expect any big surprises in there, but there's still going to be a little bit of dead money to heap on that. Overall, are the Steelers in a good situation cap wise for 2022? Yeah, but they also don't have a lot of guys under contract right now.
Right.
For
36 or something.
Yeah, I mean, and a good 10 of those guys probably aren't going to be under contract here in another 16 weeks, right? Because you got all your rookies, your undrafted guys in there, and first year players as well too. So you still got to fill that thing out to a rule of 51 with probably a second year salary average. And that obviously is going to eat up a little bit of room too. It's obviously not a doom and gloom situation there, but you're obviously going to have room to a lot more room in 2022 to work with. But also too, what's the quarterback situation going to look like? Is Ben Roethlisberger going to be part of that still in 2022? If he's not, are you going to go out there and sign a guy 1 year, for, I don't know, $12-13 million cap hit to help groom maybe whatever draft pick there? So there's a lot of uncertainty there. I will try to provide a lot of clarity when it comes to the cap situation here, probably another couple weeks from now.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to that, especially for 2022, and just kind of getting a good feel and lay of the land for what that is going to look like. Any other news notes on the cap post that you did, Dave, that you want to touch on?
No, I think that's got the only other thing people say, well, why don't your numbers all the time match sites like Over the Cap? Well, I'll tell you plain and simple. Somebody emailed me that, so I ran over there and take a look at what's going on with them. First and foremost, they don't have the $80,000 credit accounted for. That we know for a fact that the Steelers got there. So Over the Cap's not accounting for the $80,000 credit that the Steelers received in the middle of April. Another thing that I don't know why they're not doing is any player that falls outside of the rule of 51, if they have a signing bonus proration amount attached to them, that while the base salary doesn't count, the proration amount of the signing bonus does have to account. So now here we are sitting with several draft picks signed and some undrafted free agents signed. I mean, you have 193,675 in additional proration there that they're not accounting for. So it's little things like that I think if you take into account, you will see why their numbers don't match up with mine, which are on the money.
Yeah, good point there. I didn't realize I didn't account for that. That is kind of a weird quirk of Over the Cap. Also, some Steelers news here. I should have mentioned we talked about, former Washington players with Morgan Moses. The Steelers have brought on a former Washington player, that is Daryl Young, former Washington fullback. He has been hired officially as the director of player development. We reported that about 2 weeks ago. That has now been confirmed by the team. Young's name has been added to the team website. I assume he'll replace Terry Cousins' role, basically working with the rookies and helping them transition to life in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, good catch by you, and out in front of it, right?
Yep, got that, I think, about 2 weeks ago, and it was kind of posted to the website, I believe, yesterday or the day before. So that is just one minor front office move. Have not seen any other changes in terms of the scouting department. Usually this is the time of year where you start seeing turnover in terms of scouting departments, but the Steelers are as consistent and as steady with their scouting names as anyone. So that could still change. The website is notoriously slow for updating, but everything so far has been the same.
All right, good deal.
All right, Dave, I do want to talk about, I know we've mentioned a whole lot about Najee Harris's role in 2021, and obviously he'll be the lead back, the future back if all goes well. But I want to talk about just kind of calling my shot on something, and this is certainly not 100% to happen, but I think it's certainly within the realm of possibility. Chase Claypool last year set the Steelers rookie reception record with 62, breaking Troy Edwards' 20-year mark. And I think Harris has a legitimate chance, as crazy as it may sound on the surface, to break Claypool's mark this season. Just given that he's going to be playing out of the gate and in this short pass game, probably going to catch a ton of passes. And so all he'll need to break the record in a 17-game season is 3.8 receptions per game. And just given how, I think, refined and accomplished he is as a receiver, I think he's got a chance to break Claypool's record.
Be quite an accomplishment if he does. I mean, you obviously you have the extra game in there to work with.
Right.
So and this is a guy that at Alabama showed he could catch the ball out of the backfield. You spent a first-round draft pick on him. You expect to be able to use him in all facets of the game, running the football, catching the football, all like that. It certainly is plausible that he does something. I'd love to see it. I mean, you know me. You spent a first-round draft. I want to see the guy working in the cafeteria. On top of it there. So I really do think. And look, and we talked about this, right? I mean, is there any reason to think that Najee Harris won't touch the football 300 times if he stays healthy in 2021?
No. If he stays healthy and even if he plays just 16 games, he's touching the ball at least 200 times. You can, I think, almost take that to the bank.
I guess the real question is how many more times in 300 will he, could he hit 325,
Yeah. I think it's possible. But yeah, with the receptions in particular, again, 63 is not going to be a huge number. It's not like the record's 90-something. Le'Veon Bell in his Steelers career as a whole average about 5 receptions per game. That's 85 over a 17-game season. Even Bell's rookie year, had he played all 16 games, he would have been on pace for about 58 catches. So he's right there on Claypool's mark. So I think Harris is probably, actually a little better and more refined as a receiver than Bell was as a rookie, at least. Bell really came on his sophomore season in terms of being a pass catcher, and having the additional game obviously changes things. So I think Harris actually has a decent chance, a 25% chance to break that mark.
And when you look back at Le'Veon Bell, as we mentioned the other day, I mean, he missed the first 3 games of his NFL career with a foot injury and all like that. So, look, just stay healthy, man, and I think we'll see his usage. And once again, 300 touches. I mean, to me, in my opinion, something's gone horribly wrong if he doesn't hit 300 touches. Now, I think you kind of it all depends on how the Steelers season plays out. Obviously, getting it later on into that season, because best case scenario, the Steelers have a locked up playoff spot, and a guy like Najee Harris doesn't have to play in that finale. And will he have the receiving record before then? I mean, it should be close either way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I just wanted to mention it because I know we've talked a lot about it. I've seen a lot of people discuss, obviously, Harris's usage as a receiver and being involved in the pass game, 2 things that will obviously happen this year. But I don't think anyone has really entertained the idea that he could set the record for rookie receptions. So I wanted to write about that. Speaking of running backs, we had a guest post the other day by Brett Davis. You may know him better as Falcon Safety 43. Really, really good commenter on Steelers Depot, who did a study, a really good kind of breakdown of just asking the question of one of your favorite words and topics, Dave. are running backs fungible? And I don't know if there was 100% strong conclusion one way or the other, but I thought there was a lot of good data there to at least try to make us think about the value and the nature of the position when it comes to the draft a little bit differently.
Right, and I think he did a lot of great work in this when it comes to diving deeper into percentage of first round picks used on running backs, and then the team leading rusher and all like that. But here, one of the pushbacks. I mean, I understand where he's going with this, but one of my pushbacks on this as well too is man, if you do spend a first or second round draft pick on a running back, first round specifically, aren't you going to do everything you can possibly under the sun to make sure he is used? In other words, why would you and really this goes, I guess, the same, you and I think kind of a point that he made kind of overall in talking about wide receivers is, why aren't wide receivers considered, fungible as well too, along those lines. Look, you spend a first round draft pick on a player, you're going to do everything you can to make sure he's the guy that and being generally there's only one running back on the field at the time. There's only 32 jobs across the NFL that way. And how many other lower round guys are going to have a chance at proving that they could be the guy? And look, even if you didn't draft a guy in free agency, if you sign a guy, it's usually a guy that was a former first or second round guy, right?
Yeah, I would say.
I guess what I'm getting at is how much does draft pedigree obviously play into the fungibility factor?
In what sense of the word?
I guess what I'm getting at is if you most of the time the players who are going to be starting running backs anyway are first or second round guys, just because of the draft pedigree that's involved there.
Yeah, but there aren't. I mean,
but then you go back, you look at the 49ers a couple years ago,
Right, and the study showing the percentage of backs drafted in the first round have decreased every single decade, essentially. So it's not like there's 32 running backs in the NFL that are former first or second round picks. It's
right,
probably a quarter of that.
Right, but I mean, why has the NFL gotten away from more running backs being first round picks? Look, but one of my biggest things overall was with the position and the draft is, to me, the sweet spots in the second round. Okay, I have never been don't draft a running back in the second or third round guy. My biggest concern is just the first round investment in it,
right?
In the position.
But for this year, if you use that approach, you wouldn't have gotten one of those top backs.
Sure.
The second round didn't have any value for a second-round running back, at least once Javonte Williams went off the board early in the second round.
Well, I mean, there was the whole the Ohio State kid.
Right, Trey Sermon. Yeah.
That might be the one to circle and watch, right?
Sure. Yeah. But again, you pin your hopes on one guy, and if he's not there, whatever the case is, I think you can look at that broadly and say second round's a sweet spot, but then you have to look at each class.
Sure.
Particular, and say what are our options here?
Yeah, sure. Some are going to be more top heavy. I mean, it all comes down to the individual player in each one of these situations here, plain and simple. My stance all along has been, and I think I made this clear, is if you are going to draft a running back in the first round, it better be one that can do everything plus serve lunch in the cafeteria, right? And I mean, Najee Harris is as close to that as you were probably going to get, maybe other than a guy like Sermon, potentially, or I don't know what you think about Gainwell overall, what his prospects are and all like that. But I mean, we obviously understand why they did it. We understand why Najee was the guy. I said right out of the chute that Najee, after looking at the three players that were deemed the top three running backs in this year's class, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, that to me, Najee was number one, and that was right out of not too long after the Senior Bowl took place there. So, did they get arguably the top running back in this year's class? Yes. Now here's the other thing that just worries the living what out of me is just the ability of these guys to stay healthy. You go back to 2010 here, okay? And let's look at the running backs drafted in the first round. And maybe there's a better way to look at this instead of looking at running backs first round. Maybe it needs to be divided up into the top 16 picks versus the bottom 16 picks. I don't know, because there are quite a few players that go in between. Is it right to look at, I guess what I'm saying, is it right to look at these guys as first rounders, especially when it comes to running back, or does it need to be drilled down even more into we're in the first round, the true values? But let me just read this off. I believe 17 true running backs drafted in the first round from 2010 to 2020. So that obviously that leaves out this year's class here. I'm going to read off some of these names.
Okay.
Javid Best.
He was decent. He had those concussions, though.
Right. Right. All right. You're already apologizing for him. I don't like this.
I do that a lot here. Trent Richardson was actually better than you think, Dave.
One name, one apology. Ryan Matthews.
I can't apologize for Ryan Matthews.
C.J. Spiller.
Okay. I thought Spiller was going to be good. I thought he was going to be a really good back.
You're apologizing for him.
I know. I'm just saying I thought he was going to be a good back. I was wrong.
Mark Ingram.
Okay.
All right. Mark Ingram still didn't even play in his first 3 years. See, I ambushed you, didn't I?
I'm used to it.
You're used to it. What's 3 times 16? 48? 48 possible games in the first 3 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
He played 26 and 11, 37. Okay.
He played 37 games?
Yeah, 37 out of possible 48 in his first 3 years. Here's a name for you, David Wilson.
God, was he from Virginia Tech?
Yes, sir.
Wow. What happened? What was his career? I couldn't tell you anything about his career other than it didn't go well, obviously.
Yeah, I don't remember specifics with him. Let's see here. He played 21 games in 3 seasons with 0 in 2014. Was he an injury guy?
I feel like there might have been something there, but I don't want to sound like I'm apologizing for him.
I'm trying to let's see. Wilson signed a 4-year contract. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, he had a spinal stenosis, a neck issue. He retired because of it.
All right, so
but
there
things weren't going well before that either. So.
Right. But there was maybe a pre-existing that wasn't properly accounted for, maybe in the draft process there. Right. So maybe shame on them doctors there. Trent Richardson.
There it is. Number 3 overall, right?
What was he? 3rd overall, yeah.
Yep. That was the heyday of the Browns.
The muscle hamster, Doug Martin.
He had I just looked the other day, he had 400 something touches his rookie season. It was something crazy like that.
Right.
But,
okay.
Probably not worth the first round pick.
All right. Melvin Gordon.
That's probably the best name so far.
It might be. He has obviously longevity-wise up until this point. We're looking at Mark Ingram has played 132 games to date. After that, we're looking at I don't know. Spiller has played in 90 games. There's quality versus quantity, I suppose. All right, after Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on Todd Gurley's career to date?
It was going really well until the wheels fell off, until his knees fell apart. But he was a great back until the Coca-Cola whatever number he wore, went off the track.
Right. Ezekiel Elliott. Gil Brandt's was all ready to put him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You remember a couple years ago talking about, is Ezekiel Elliott right now headed for the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
No, I don't think so. I think he's a really good back, but not the Canton.
Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, people thought he was just a can't-miss guy coming out. And that really good draft class with him and McCaffrey and who was the other back that year that came out. But he's got a ring, but obviously didn't really work out for Jacksonville.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, there's one that hit. And again, that's someone that has that versatility of not being just a runner, but being that probably the best receiving back in football, at least right up there with guys like Alvin Kamara. So that's he got hurt last year, but he's had a great career, obviously.
Right. I mean, he was 48 for 48 playing in his first 48 games. Right, and then
6 last year.
Then what? It shows 3 games here last year for him.
Three,
right?
Maybe 3. I'm off the top of my head here, but either way, not a lot of games.
All right. So really, it's could you say that he at this point if a running back goes 48 for 48 and does what he has done in his first 3 seasons, regardless of what happened in his 4th season in 2020, and let's say he just never plays another game again, which obviously is far fetched, but just in his first 3 seasons alone, does that justify the pick?
I mean, when you play at the level that he did, I think your evaluation of him was correct. So in that sense, it would justify it, I suppose. But those things probably get looked at. What other players could they have taken? And then people play that game to judge whether or not it was a good pick or not.
All right. Well, what's your overarching thoughts right now if he was never play another game right now? And based only on those first 3, was it worth the pick?
I mean, it's hard to blame the team. So I guess I'll say yes is the short answer.
Okay. All right. And look, I mean, quite phenomenal what he did in those 3 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, you just have to wonder how many touches does he have now?
A ton. I mean, I guess receptions probably have a little less wear and tear than the carries, but he's got
1,000 touches right now.
Yeah. So a lot of workload on him. I mean, he's like the bell guy that played like 95% of the snaps.
All right. Rashad Penny.
Yeah, that was a surprise when Seattle took him. I think 1 pick ahead, Terrell Edmonds. So he has not worked out. Chris Carson, the 7th-round pick, has emerged there.
Saquon Barkley. I mean, obviously the jury's still out on that, but I mean, you don't like a running back that early coming off of a knee injury,
Mm-hmm. But that's the concern. A really talented back, but he tears his ACL, and so now you wonder what he's going to be post-injury.
Sony Michel.
Yeah, that didn't work out well for Belichick.
And then the final 2, Josh Jacobs.
I think it's worked out, decently for Vegas.
All right, he has played in 2 seasons, 28 games out of a possible 32, so he's already missed 4 games.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then the final one, just from last year, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
And I don't know what he did. I mean, in terms of playing time.
13 games out of a possible 16.
Yeah, I mean, it got worse by year's end. I think he was kind of taking a backseat role.
All right, now look, all these you could drill down and is it fair to group them as a whole, or is it we have to look at each case individually here? I mean, you see where I'm going here. It's not that impressive, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I pulled up a list here of the quarterbacks drafted in the first round since 2010, and it's Tim Tebow, Sam Bradford, Christian Ponder, Blaine Gabbert, Jake Locker, Cam Newton, Brandon Whedon, Ryan Tannehill, RG3, Andrew Luck, EJ Manuel, Teddy Bridgewater, Johnny Manziel, Blake Bortles. You get the idea here. I mean, the quarterback success rate is abysmal, but
right. But we've known that for a year. It really is. I mean, it really. Yeah. I mean, you're throwing a dart. How many times are you going to get a guy come out of there that is? I mean, just look at the playoff quarter. Even look at the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks going all the way back to 1999. I mean, it's not a long list of them. Obviously, Brady's in there quite a bit. There's a couple of Manning kids in there. There's a guy named Roethlisberger, Flacco mixed in there. I mean, you want to talk about crap? Hell yeah. I mean, I agree. But those are the type of chances that I think teams have to take.
Sure. Yeah, but that's my point. I'm saying is no one's arguing don't take a quarterback in the first round. Everyone knows you have to take one early. You got to take your chance, even though you know there's like a 75% chance you're going to miss on it. But I'm just saying the point of saying, well, first running backs haven't been successful. I don't think it's the strongest argument to make for the case against taking a running back early.
And once again, I think players got to be put in a vacuum. Would it have been as wise of a choice? I guess it comes down to this. The wisest, if you're going to choose a running back in the first round this year, what was the wisest choice of the three between Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Wood? Look, Javonte's like it or not, Javonte's undersized to think that you're going to get the maximum, even if he stays healthy. What are you likely to get out of him 3 years into the NFL?
Yeah, but to be fair, if you're going to say that about Williams, you got to say that about Etienne as well, because they're basically the same size.
I mean, Etienne is a little bit bigger and does have a little bit more experience.
Well, Etienne bulked up for his pro day. He didn't play at 215 this year, I don't think. I mean, Etienne came in at 5'10", 215 with 9 3/8 hands, and Williams is 5'9", 212 with 9 3/8. So Etienne has 3 pounds, and he bulked up for his pro day in like half an inch on him. I mean, they're basically the same size.
All right, but I mean, you see where I'm trying to get at here.
Sure.
I mean, the
right. I did answer your question. Harris was the clear choice.
Right. That was it. That was the choice. Yeah. So, I mean, unless you wanted to wait and then hope that a guy, say like Sermon, fell to you in, or to me, I think the way that you would have had to approach this had you gone anywhere other than Najee Harris at that pick, to me, the only other option really, in my personal opinion, was Landon Dickerson. You might disagree. Who would you have taken if you didn't take Najee Harris there?
Well, I just to stay consistent, I said I would take Creed Humphrey. I guess he was my top center, and I know he went, second round. So, I mean, in hindsight, would that have been the right idea? But I thought Humphrey was the best center in this class. Okay,
let's say both of us went center. One of us went Landon Dickerson. The other went Creed Humphrey. You almost have to turn around. Almost. I mean, you really, the way things broke. I mean, Sermon becomes the guy you would think in the second round, right?
Yeah, because you can't risk him getting to you at 88.
And then you could almost, and there's no such thing as a guarantee, you could almost guarantee that Sermon would have made it to you with the second round pick, right?
Mm-hmm, probably. Yeah, he went, like 92 to the 49ers or wherever he went.
All right, so what was that more than likely the way? Let's say Najee would have went before 24. What way? I mean, we'll never know. Maybe one day we will know. But and look, we could spend 2 hours on this. But
we're in a pretty solid Seinfeld mode of the podcast right now.
All right, Bobby, you understand where I'm going here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know where they would have gone. That was the big question I had, was that if Harris is not there, they don't take Najee Harris. I really couldn't tell you strongly what direction they were going to go.
And boil this all the way back to the article that Brett had written there for the site and fungibility and all like that. You see where the pushback is here, though, right? In the first round.
Sure. No, of course I get that, and it's not like I'm someone like 100% for taking running back in the first round. But
I'm not saying overall that you can pull any seventh rounder undrafted off the street, put them behind. I think the line has a lot to do with this. And that's kind of a part of this equation that's really, really hard to measure, But I think offensive line plays a lot in this overall. Now, pedigree and running back to some degree, yeah, I think there is something to it. Just the fungibility factor, I think, when you look back over Super Bowl champions, there is some degree of it that really can't be ignored. And then specifically, as I've said, when you look at first round running backs there, man, the gamble to me is just not great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a gamble no matter who you take, but do you just say, is it worth it? Is the reward worth the risk there? And you could say that it's not as rewarding to take a running back because the payoff isn't as big as say quarterback or corner, receiver, whatever the case is. But I think just not that this was surprising, but just to see the list of running backs drafted over the years by Pittsburgh, and they have not found that diamond in the rough in the mid rounds. Whether you're talking Veron Haynes, J.T. Wall, Noah Herron, Frank Summers, Chris Rainey, Dre Archer, Jalen Samuels, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland. I think that's kind of proof that, okay, maybe they need to change their approach because the mid-round running back has not worked for them, generally speaking. The occasional undrafted free agent, Willie Parker, obviously, but I think their thought was, let's have a different approach instead of taking the yearly fourth-round running back to be a okay backup.
Was James Conner overdrafted?
No, I think he was appropriately drafted.
All right. Was Benny Snell overdrafted?
Nah, I mean, maybe you get a small case, but I think you're splitting hairs. I think fourth round, but for a backup running back, what his skill set is probably just about right.
I guess where I'm going with this, my thought is, and it really has kind of been this, is you either draft a running back in the second round or you just go another route.
Mm-hmm.
Because look at the running. The thing that's irritated the living out of me is what the last 3 or 4 drafts. You drafted a running back, and this I guess would make more of a would help with the argument.
That's my point. Yeah, the mid running backs that have taken have not turned into the guy. So something different.
That Brett's I guess that Brett's essentially trying to make. I would have liked to have seen Brett kind of wrap a bow around this a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful, and look, I hope Brett writes 80 more articles with this type of research here. I guess my takeaway is here, and people wanted us to. I got a few emails because of my stance on the fungibility factor, saying, "Oh, I sure hope Dave talks about this on the podcast." Right? I just wish there was more of a bow wrapped around this. Would you agree or no?
Well, I think it's good to at least sometimes just put the data out there and just kind of let everyone draw their own conclusions, because it's not like none of these numbers showed any one clear trend. You can kind of make cases for and against based off the data, but I think just showing the history of the Steelers in the mid-round running backs, the names we just rattled off, I think kind of signaled, okay, let's have a different approach than trying to find the next fourth round Hall of Famer.
All right, now and once again, what has been my take about Steelers and drafting running backs the last 4 years? Oh my God, here we go again. James Conner, Jalen Samuels, Anthony McFarland, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland. I mean, are you going to keep continuing to throw that third, fourth round mud up on there?
Right, that's the point for let's take the big dive into Najee Harris the same way with tight end. Instead of taking the fifth round tight end, let's have a high investment in that to try to really hopefully get some good gains out of the position.
I guess my view is man, if and I've been consistent with this for a while. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you are going to take one that you're willing to put out there 800 something snaps, a season out there. So, maybe you do have to look at this more as a bottom 6, look at it from the 32 picks from the middle of round 1 to the middle of round 2.
Right.
And then look at look at more the measurable aspect, I guess,
Mm-hmm. Right. Because there's a difference between taking Trent Richardson at 3 and Najee Harris at 24. You're not missing on probably a blue chip prospect in the top 25 than you're in the top 5. And so people will praise Javonte Williams and the Broncos for taking him at 34, but somehow taking Najee Harris at 24 is like the biggest mistake in the world. So apparently, like if you take one at 32, you're an idiot. You take one at 33, you're a freaking genius. So it kind of gets a little silly like that too.
For what happened with Le'Veon Bell, all right. It was the right pick at the right value, everything about it, right? I mean, was it the right? That was the sweet spot right there. Oh boy, look at what they remember the old Eddie Lacy versus Le'Veon Bell. How did that play out?
Right. No, I agree. I think ideally the second round is where you can get the running back because you still have high talent without maybe the higher investment. You think about Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb. I believe those guys were all second round picks. Le'Veon Bell obviously as well, but You can't always get what you want in a draft. You can't tell every other team, hey, guys, let us take a running back here in the second round. In a draft like this one, you either taking one in the first round or you were taking a, tier 2, tier 3 type running back.
I mean, obviously, I'm not to the degree of a Warren Sharp, right? I mean, that guy.
I don't like that guy, to be honest. I don't like to be mean about that, but he annoys the heck out of me.
I mean, I mean, the thing is he's got a lot of great analytics, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really, really does. But then he fires off stuff. What was the one that I wrote about the other day that he fired off that just
100-yard receiver for some reason?
I mean, did I miss something there?
I don't even know what point he was trying to make.
That's what I'm getting at. What did I miss?
Random stats. Yeah. I don't know what he was trying to do with that. I think he's just like half meme, half stat, half or all weird. Is kind of how I look at his Twitter timeline.
And look, it don't take much to get me to talk about fungibility, but I mean, he has really gone over the top, right?
Yeah, there's just the whole correlation causation thing. Like, what's the point of listing the number of 100-yard receivers the last 2 years?
All right. Anyway, back to I think Brett's now pinned 2 or 3 articles for the site now. I think, right?
Yeah, I think every 3 years, I think we're getting one from Brett. So
all right, dial it up, Brett. We appreciate it. Look, I mean, this time of year, obviously too. I mean, it gave us. We just spent a good 30-minute Seinfeld. I think people will enjoy that talk about running back. I'm interested to hear people's thoughts on what we just talked about there in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, I am too. And there was a really good discussion on Brett's post, 142 comments. So I think people really had some strong opinions there. So it was definitely good, at least conversation fodder.
And look, you obviously hope they made the right selection in Najee. And if, at worst you get 3 quality seasons of, let's see, I mean, you got 17-game season now, so what's 3 times 17? And let's give them the benefit of the doubt of missing maybe at least 1 game for whatever reason in there. So we're back to, if they could get 48 games in the next 3 seasons out of Najee and get the kind of production that and touches that we think that they're going to try to get out of him, does it matter if he goes much more beyond that? Or does it matter of how, if this team doesn't go to the playoffs or make a long Super Bowl run in the next 3 years, I mean, I guess you could say it about any player,
Right.
What did it matter? Why did you even take part in the draft,
Right. Well, it's like saying, dude, TJ Watt wasn't a good pick because they haven't won with him. Well,
right.
It's not solely on TJ Watt.
Right.
Not that anyone's really saying that, but I've occasionally heard people kind of make those comments. What has TJ Watt done in his career? Where it's like, well, he can only do what he can control.
I mean, you would think that if you want to have a shot at making a Super Bowl run this year for the Steelers, it's going to come as a result of Ben Roethlisberger not throwing as much and the running game being not just better, but better. They could probably put you out there and come pretty close to the production. I'm obviously being very sarcastic there, but an increase making the run game better in 2021 sure doesn't seem like that big of a chore. It's just how much better can it be, and will that result in Roethlisberger throwing less, being an overall better quarterback? Will it keep the defense off the field a little bit longer? Will they be able to salt away games in the fourth quarter? Yada yada. So I think that's the measuring stick when it comes to the pick, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And just overall, you took a really talented player, the best player at his position, at a position that you needed to have now, and you didn't, in my opinion, at least pass on some sort of can't miss guy at a position that you needed. You certainly could make a case for another player, but there wasn't like oh my goodness, how did they pass on player X for Najee Harris? So you got a really good player at the position you need, a guy's going to help you win right away. That's not a bad approach to your draft.
The only I don't think there is a Joe Thomas tackle in this draft, or I didn't think. We'll see. Time will tell. But I don't think they bypassed on a tackle that would have maybe went in that spot that 3 years from now we're gonna be saying, oh man, I can't believe They pass. Now, if there was a tackle to come out of this class, it might be one that was picked before they even, or after they picked 55 overall, right? To me, that's the more potential upsided tackles in this class, I think, came after 55.
Well, I think it was a really good tackle class at the top with Slater. They'll probably kick inside, but Sewell and see how those guys do. I like
but guys that they could have drafted.
Yeah. In terms of after that, you could have had a Tevin Jenkins or Liam Eichenberg or someone like that. But I think they got a good player at a position of need, and that's how you should approach every draft.
I guess what I'm getting at here is personally the way I'm going to be viewing this pick in the first round is a Creed Humphrey, a Landon Dickerson, or Najee Harris.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. We shall see, and we'll certainly be talking and comparing about it for years to come, I'm sure.
All right. You get tired of me talking about running backs and fungibility and
No, I think it's good. I mean, what else is there to talk about in end of May here? One topic though that is not my favorite topic, I'll admit, is the betting lines. And David, you had was this according to West Books? What's the name of the bookie?
Westgate, right?
Westgate. Okay. The Steelers are favorites in 8 of 17 games in 2021.
Yeah. What? First blush, it seems right.
I don't have an area of expertise here, but I felt a little bit low probably compared to other years, but I don't have previous years to compare it to.
All right. In total, the Steelers are favored in 8 of their 17 2021 games, 7 of which are at home. Not surprising that you're going to be probably favored at home there. Prior to their Week 7 bye, the Steelers are favored in 4 of their first 6 games. That kind of feels right, just looking at the schedule in general and kind of thinking that we know what this team might look like in come Week 1. All 4 of those are home games against the Raiders, the Bengals, the Denver Broncos, and Seattle Seahawks. I guess some could question, should they really be favored against the Seahawks? I guess that's a good question right there.
What's the line on that?
It is 2.5, which
so if they were away, they would have been underdogs. So the fact of being a home.
Yeah, kind of the 3-point home advantage, if you will. There. Let's see here. As far as the Steelers' 6 AFC North games go in 2001, they are favored in, where is it here? In just 2 in total, both against the Bengals. The Steelers' Week 17 home game against the Cleveland Browns is a pick'em game. However, my biggest takeaway of all this, and really the AFC in general here, is are the Browns getting too much respect here?
I know there's that thought of the whole paper champions, and there's been certainly off seasons in the past where they were crowned as the team to watch for. But I think there's certainly more credibility to that praise for them this year, considering what they did last year, and they had a really strong offseason both in free agency and the draft. So maybe a bit too much, but I think a lot of it is warranted.
Push come to shove right now, who is the better team in the AFC North, the Ravens or the Browns?
It's a really good question. I'm going to lean Cleveland.
All right. I could definitely go that way with you. So within that, though, how much better are from and this is based entirely on the team right now, and obviously injuries and all could play a role in this. How much better are and I'm assuming your view of the Browns being better of the Ravens is it's close, but I get the nod to the Browns, right?
Yeah, you can make the case for Baltimore, but I'm going to lean Cleveland by a narrow margin.
Okay, I would as well. All right, so within that now, how far head and shoulders are they both, either one of them, better than the Steelers?
Yeah, I think, again, they're all lumped together. They're all going to be in that battle, and I think Week 17, Week 18 is going to really show and prove and decide, I should say, the AFC North standings. But I do think the Browns and the Ravens are better than the Steelers right now.
All right. I think it's going to – I really think this AFC North division is one of the – and I think I've said this now a few times. I could see a team winning 9 or 10 wins, winning the division here for sure. I will be shocked if any one AFC North team wins more than 10 games, I'll throw that out there from where I sit right now. Additionally, I think I'll be shocked if any one AFC North team wins more than 4 division games.
So your thought to that is that they're going to just beat up on each other, and that's going to keep everyone's win totals down.
I really do. That's where I sit on this. I really could see. I could see the Steelers, Ravens, and Browns splitting with each other, and then the Bengals stealing 2 games in there from one of the from 2 of those 3 teams.
How would you rank the top 3, or how would you rank the AFC North in terms of the best teams, 1 through 4?
Man, it's right there with Baltimore and Cleveland being, kind of a virtual tie at 1A, and I think the Steelers are there 1B. I mean, I think it's that close. I mean, it would not surprise me one iota to see one of those 3 teams win the AFC North and win it with 9 wins. Period.
So you're still you won't give, you don't have a defined number 1, 2, 3. It's just 1As, 1Bs, and then the Bengals.
I would put the Steelers just a step behind.
Okay. Behind both.
Behind both, and I do, and I'm with you. I think it's like the Browns, then just a smidgen ahead of the Ravens, who are just a smidgen ahead of the Steelers there. And
well, I'll say this: I think the gap between Cleveland and Baltimore is smaller than the gap between Baltimore and Pittsburgh, if that makes sense. Where I think Cleveland and Baltimore are really close at 1, and the Steelers are kind of like in a clear tier, or not, maybe not tier, but clear section down.
I think they are B. I think the Steelers are B. Maybe I don't view it as much of a gap between those 2 as you do. Okay. But I think there is a gap. I just don't think it's as big. And really, you make it sound like it's not that, big of a gap, I don't think.
No, it's not a big gap, but if I had to I don't know, if I had to put 1 through 10 scales on, I think the talent of the team, it would be maybe Cleveland at a 9.2 and Baltimore at 9.0 and Pittsburgh at 8. I talk about the gaps between those teams. All
right, now within all that, I mean, we have both said that we don't think that this that it's hard to imagine this 2021 team, the Steelers team, being as good as the 2020 team. The window that they have passed that window.
Right, we're in the reality we talked about this time 1 year ago.
All right, we both agree on that. Now, where are you on? I mean, there's 17 games. It's cut and dry. Is the win total of 8.5 a fair number? I think it is.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I'm sitting at I think this stuff is meaningless, and so I'm loath to even say it because people are going to yell at me for it.
Well, so much change. So much can change.
Right. I think this is a 9-18. Pittsburgh is.
All right, I'd find it hard to argue with you there.
But I also think it's going to take more than 9 or 10 games to win the AFC North. I think 10's the minimum to win the North.
All right. But once again, I think at most the winner of this division is 10 wins.
In a 17-game season, I think 11 is still pretty realistic.
All right. I'll from where and obviously a lot of things can change, injuries and a lot of this stuff dictates, as the season goes on and all like that. From where I sit right now, I'll be surprised if a team wins more than 10 games in the AFC North. I really think there's a good chance you can see a couple of 9 and 8s, and then an 8 and 9, and then I don't know where you had the Bengals. I mean, potentially you look at their schedule. I mean, you could maybe see a 7 and 10 at best season for them. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be very tight. I think it could be 11 and 6, 10 and 7, 9 and 8 kind of order in the top 3, or maybe 2 10 and 7 teams that are tiebreaker stuff like that. But I do think someone's going to squeak out to get at least 10 or 11 wins.
All right, boiling this back down to the lines and all. I think it's a reality of the betting public saying, we don't know if this Steelers team can win 9 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who are the there's 2 games where they're home underdogs. Right?
Let's see. You got a pick'em game against the Browns.
Oh, okay.
In way out in week 17, and then you have where's the other Steelers plus Where did we see that at? Ravens at home in Week 13. The Steelers are 2.5-point underdogs already.
What's the line on the road for the Week 18 game? 5?
5.5.
5.5. Okay. Yeah. Again, meaningless, but interesting nonetheless.
All right.
All right, Dave, anything else you want to talk about in today's show, or do you want to get to some reader emails and close out today's show?
I guess we should get to some reader emails now.
By the way, when you talked about stenosis and Ezekiel Elliott, I'm doing a video on Jarvis Jones, and so I'm getting real good flashbacks on his final stenosis and Zeke Elliott running past him against Pittsburgh.
All right, good deal. Let me see if I can get past some of this spam in here. Got a bunch of it. Harris, let's see. Chris Lookart writes in, so do you guys feel the expectations for Harris are a little outrageous? I listened to Cam Hayward talk about him and others. All I hear is he needs 30 or 40 touches a game. They make it sound like he's going to be our savior. LOL. What is Yen's opinion? Look, I think it was a little bit kind of hyperbole there on his part to say 30 to 40 touches a game. However, I mean, if he's going to reach the 300, let's say 310 touches, that feels right, doesn't it? 310.
Yeah, I think just at least 300 is how I'll put it, assuming he's playing in 16, at least in 16 of the 17 games. At least 300.
All right, what's 300? What's 300 divided by 16?
Big of a number. It's 18.75.
That's not that big of a number at all.
Right.
Hopefully you do get to a game or two during the season where he has touched the ball 30 times a game, because that probably means a good 7 of them were in the fourth quarter with less than 6 minutes left in the game, right, Alex?
Right. Yeah, with the Hayward thing, I don't think he was being literal. I don't know why national media had a freak out.
It's what they do.
I know. Yeah, it's like Marcus Spears was talking about you can't have Ben throw 60 times a game. He's not being 100% literal with that. He's just trying to say that you can't have Ben throw all the time. Hayward's saying that Harris is going to be someone they can really put a big workload on, even if it's not literally 40 touches a game. Of course not. So that was a stupid media freak out that annoyed me. But I get Hayward's point.
Right, but within that, I mean, there's going to be some celebrating, I think, if a couple of times this year Najee Harris touches the ball 30 times in a game.
Sure, because it probably means you got that lead late and you're running out the clock.
Now, 40 touches in a game. Whoa, hold on there.
That's happened before, right, Franco? I think didn't Bell do it? Maybe once, came real close.
That's a great.
10 reception games.
I don't know. You got stat. You're stat boy, right? Yeah, stat boy.
What'd you call me?
Stat boy.
Stat man.
Stat man. How many times in the last 5 years has a running back touched the ball 40 times in a game, and what was the outcome of that game?
Well, I hope they won. If they didn't, then I'm not really sure what they were doing. Maybe the Broncos when they didn't have their quarterback last year. Give me a second here.
All right.
I gotta, because stat head's kind of impossible to go through. 40 touches in a game since 2015 we'll call it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure it's only happened a couple times. I think Franco had 40 touches sometime back in the 70s, one of those probably mutter type games.
Right. I'll be interested to find.
And 3 times. Last time was Zeke Elliott in 2018.
Did they win?
They did. They beat the Eagles 29-23. Le'Veon Bell in 2016 did have it. I thought that was correct with that. Beat the Bills 27-20. And David Johnson had 41 touches in 2016, and that was that abysmal tie against Arizona, that 6-6 game where everybody missed those chip shot. So 3 times they are 2-0-1 in those 3 games.
How about 30 touches in a game?
I mean, I'm sure that's happened quite a bit.
But
I'll look it up. Let's see. Since 2015, that has happened over 100 times. So,
all right, where's the line? Where does this, does 35? What does 35 return? Is that kind of the where's that fine line?
Some uncommon, yeah. 35 is a good line. It's only happened 18 times. So, and the record there is. It's happened 18.
This is since 2015?
Yeah, since 2015 to 2020. It's happened 15 times. The outcome in that game, that back who had 35-plus touches. They are 15-1-2, so more ties than losses.
Wow, that's a pretty significant stat, though. That's a significant line in the sand, though, right? 35.
Yeah, those numbers were, it's like the old, you rush for 100 yards in a game. Of course, your team's more likely to win because you're rushing the ball late. But yeah, if you get 35 touches, that probably means you have a lead and you're trying to run out the clock.
Sure, I know it's a causation kind of thing here for sure. But I mean, boiling it back down to, I guess, what the Cam exact quote is what I'm trying to do.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, we do hope there's a couple times where he touches the ball 35 or more times a game, because if so, it probably his boat has boded well for the Steelers and all that. So, no, I didn't think Cam saying what he said, I didn't take it literally, although that's what people do to build stories around, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fact of the matter is the long and short of what Cam said the other day is he's behind the pick of Najee Harris. The running game needs to get better, and a byproduct maybe of Najee getting doing what they hope he's going to be able to do will result in that defense maybe not being on the field more. And boy, what a great sight that will be if it happens.
Yes, that's the point he was trying to make, and I think that is 100% accurate. And by the way, of those 18 running backs with 35 touches since 2015. Only one back has done it multiple times, and it was Le'Veon Bell, who did it 6 times. So that just kind of shows you the bell cow that Bell was, and the guy hopefully Harris can be.
All right, and 6 times since when?
Since 2015. He touched the ball 35-plus times. No one else has done it more than once.
When was his rookie season? 2003.
Good. 12. What was his rookie season? 13, right?
Do it from that date. How many times did he do it basically during his Steelers career?
Yeah. Okay. 1 second here. The stat head thing, it's so much more.
I know it's clunky, man.
Yeah, clunky's a good word for it for sure. It's happened quite a bit. And again, Bell had 289 touches his rookie season in 13 games. So again, when we talk about Harris being at 300 plus, I think that's probably being conservative, to be honest with you.
Right, but I'm talking how many times did he touch the ball 35 more times since he came into the league?
I was vamping to get the stats up. 8 times.
8?
No, 7 times. I'm sorry, 7 times.
And out of how many running backs during that span?
I was just looking at Pittsburgh. I can look up across the league.
All right, well, just look at the 8 times in total. What was the Steelers' record? And nobody, obviously, I don't think anybody's done it more during that span than him, right?
They were 7-0 when Bell touched the ball 35-plus times.
Okay, all right.
And D-Well did it once in a win, and James Conner did it in that Week 1 tie against Cleveland in 2018.
Wow, it's weird that ties. That's when ties happen, right?
Yeah, kind of strange.
All right, good info there, but boiling it down once again, it's just a little bit of hyperbole, I think, when talking about Cam Hayward's talk there. Clegg Ivy weighs in. Brett's running back article. Clegg's been following me around the United States, or him. I was born in Pensacola in 1971, lived in Savannah for 12 years, and got married in Vegas. So I get you. Yeah, no doubt. We have been in the same city a few times there. Anyway, I love the podcast, and especially love all the addition, writing, and content this year. Brett's article on running backs was awesome. I would enjoy hearing you and Alex discuss his findings on the podcast and talk about what he says about running back fungibility, availability, and value later versus early rounds. Keep up the great work. Well, Clegg, I hope I think today's podcast was right. If there was just one pleased listener today, it had to be Clegg there, right?
I hope so.
All right, I think that's about it. I think we got through the bulk of them there, Alex. So within that, anything else to add? And what do you have a feeling we will be talking about on Tuesday?
I have no idea. At this point in the offseason, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. On Steelers Depot, I have the the best undrafted wide receivers in team history, and there's a clip of former Steelers receivers coach Randy Fichtner speaking, which amused me. Nate Washington, one of the best undrafted free agents.
What did you think about my terrible take yesterday?
On Ray McLeod?
Right.
Yeah, I liked it. I think his spots, especially if they didn't draft one, but I think just having that kick and punt return value and just how successful they were as a unit, granted, but McLeod is a kick returner. That's a guy you probably don't want to let go after you finally kind of get some traction in your kick return game.
All right, would you bet that equity you have in that new house of yours on Ray making the 53 being a lock? I mean, obviously injury aside, I mean, I'm talking about being flat out cut. Would you bet that equity you have in that beautiful new house of yours?
Oh wow, you're really selling me hard on this one. I don't know if I would go that far.
You're not a betting man anyway, so
yeah, I don't. I'm a man ruled by fear, and betting is all about fear. I get too emotional about sports in general. I don't want to get emotional about betting on a Pistons Hawks game halftime score. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think he's the lock that the other four receivers ahead of him are, but I think he's like a 90% chance guy to make it.
All right. The overall view of my terrible take was that, I mean, can you come away with a bigger winner in from this year's draft? I'm sure that I can listen to a couple arguments on that. I think the biggest thing when it comes to him right now is he was a winner coming out of the draft, I think, because the team didn't draft a wide receiver. But B, if he is going to continue to win and thus make the roster here, I'd like to see. I mean, that offensive production last season was putrid, right? I mean, I would like to see him use. You believe he played the amount of snaps that he played? Well over 100 offensive snaps there, and they have got to find a way to utilize that speed and his ability in open field. I mean, you take away that 50-something yard run against the Eagles away, and yeah, I know can't cherry pick, blah blah blah, but I mean, the highlight of his offensive production last year was that one play. And quite honestly, if you want to look at that play, you can say, why the hell didn't he break that thing for a touchdown?
Yeah, I was just going to say he should have scored on that one. Yeah, I agree with you there. In terms of being the winner, they didn't draft a receiver and Matt Canada as your OC now. That's a pretty good place to be in for Ray McLeod.
Right, and you have to have a better depth of target stat in there. I mean, he made Ryan Switzer look like Mark Davis Bryant.
I don't think his depth of target's going to change too much. It's just, can you create some bigger plays, just catching those swing passes and stuff in the flat? That's what I care about.
And look, I'm not saying this is a guy. I mean, you look at his Clemson tape and his tape with I think mainly Buffalo. This is not a guy I think you're going to make a habit of throwing more than 10 yards down the field to. All right,
there are other guys to run those routes.
Right, I'm not getting there, but I mean, you give me something here,
I don't care. He can have a point. He can have a negative depth of target. Again, I don't care as long as he's doing something after the catch. That's all.
This is something else that maybe we can study. And here's the thing now. Hopefully, Brett's going to write more post for stats driven. I plan on writing more. We have added another stats guy in who Clayton Eckert. That's going to be doing some deeper dives for us too, statistically as well too. I wonder how many times you have had a guy have a average depth of target of, 3 yards or less on more than, what's a good baseline? 20 targets, 25 targets that has actually produced, 6-7 yards per gain, something along those lines. What I'm getting at there is it's going to be few and far between. So you got to mix in getting the football to him down the field a little bit more, I think.
See,
not a lot, but I mean,
I just think about how you use him in those jet situations strategically, how you get him the ball in space and motion, and he's only touched the ball a couple times a game. So as long as you're maximizing those opportunities, I mean, they're not all going to be home runs, obviously, but I don't really see the need to get him downfield some at all.
And obviously a couple of those so-called targets are pitches forward.
Right. Right. That's what I'm saying. That's how Matt Canada is going to use him, because that's his skill set, or why use him differently.
Well, I think you've got to I think to maximize him without that having him on the field with that red light on his helmet, you got to.
Then you can use him as a decoy because you can fake stuff to him.
I put that in my. I put that. I specifically used the word decoy in my terrible take as well too. Right. I mean, You got to find a way. If you're going to use him, you got to learn how to properly use him as a decoy more as well too.
Sure, which doesn't mean having him run routes necessarily.
Right, but I think part of all of it, him being better and being a true winner in the maximization all the way around, or maximizing, I don't know, is maximization a word? Probably not.
Might be, I think so.
Is using him better in all phases, and that means decoy, that means in the running game, and that means in the passing game past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, you should get one of those wheel routes you talk about all the time.
Oh, yeah, amen, amen. Look, you don't, and that's another thing they're going to have to do better too. Out of those motion is something that really got me. And look, I don't think it should be 25-30% of the time, but they have got to find a way to utilize that motion and throw off of that pre-snap motion more than they did last year, which don't take a lot, but you got to do it.
There's got to be better constraint plays. We're using one play to set up another. So, yeah, you might throw, to Ray Raymond the flat off some jet, but the next time you're going to, fake the flat and throw to someone else, or then
Najee or Watt or whoever. That's another thing. How much more is Watt? I don't know if we got a question. I thought I saw a question about that somewhere. How much more is Derek Watt going to be, or should Derek Watt be used this season?
I think it'll really just be circumstance dependent. Short yardage, goal line, forming an offense. I don't know if he's going to really have a great place in the bulk of the game plan, but just kind of whenever they need him, is kind of how I view it.
What do you see his snap total being? 200? Can he hit 200?
What's that?
Can he hit 200?
I think that's high. I mean, it's going to ebb and flow just based on game circumstance. There'll be a game where he won't play at all because you get down or you're passing late, and there'll be games where he's playing 15 snaps because you're in a 4-minute drill. But I don't know, probably 100-ish snaps. Maybe that's a little bit low, but plus he's got to stay healthy. He's had these injuries crop up too.
And here's him not being used as a tight end.
That as well, right?
All right, I think we've covered everything we need to cover there. All right, in the meantime, you can follow me on the Twitter machine at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you got any ideas for any stat deeper dives for guys like Brett and Clayton, we really want to try to utilize these guys as much as we can during the offseason. I think there's a lot of great content out there waiting to be written around some stats, especially now that we have more access to more material and all like that. So if you got any ideas that you say, hey, I'd like to see this drilled down, you hear it doesn't take Alex and I long to come up with, boy, I wonder what the baseline on this is and all. Like, we're always looking for ideas, and if they're good ones, we can go down those rabbit holes over the course of the next 16 weeks here. In the meantime, follow, like I said, both of us on Twitter, the account at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button upright navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button upright navigational bar. For $25, you can have an ad-free version of the site. Great Seinfeld episode today, Alex. I think we gave the people a lot of nothing to talk about. So in the meantime, we're going to be back on Monday night, right?
Yeah, Monday for the live stream and then podcast on Tuesday.
All right, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.